And we'll start with the pledge. And Brad, since Brad is over there talking, Brad will now lead us in the pledge.
I pledge allegiance
To the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. We're to add to the mayhem, Brad, just over there. All right, everyone. We are back. We had the largest commendation ceremony ever. It indeed was a large, almost a full house. So I did see a supplemental personnel report floating around, so that means...
Could we add that to the consent agenda? It's a supplemental dated today.
Without objection. Thank you, Brad. This is the part where we receive and hear from delegations or the public or anyone who may wants to come and speak to us. And apparently South Hill and IPI are here tonight, and we're going to go ahead and take advantage of that opportunity. So you're up. And that looks like Steve. And appreciate the view.
Members of the Board of Education, thank you for having us tonight. I apologize that I am not able to be with you in person, but I am currently returning from Washington, D.C. after celebrating the graduation of my final class of seniors from the Cesar Chavez Public Charter School Parkside campus. When I took a position with IPEI and relocated to Ithaca, I promised my students I would be there for graduation. And like IPEI has stood by its promise for 20 years to support innovative education and to work with our excellent educators, staff, and administrators in the Ithaca City School District, it's my privilege to keep my word to my students. This year, IPEI was proud to sponsor Spanish at South Hill Elementary with a Connecting Classrooms grant of $10,000 in support of this pilot program in language instruction and inclusion in the daily classroom environment of an Ithaca City School District elementary school. IPEI sponsored this program with the expectation that the program would be presented to you and to the district as a model for language inclusion that works for our school and for our community. As we conclude this school year, I hope the lessons of this program and the positive work of the South Hill faculty, staff, and parents can be continued and communicated to other schools throughout the district. It's my privilege now to turn this presentation over to the educational and administrative leaders of South Hill Elementary School, who will talk with you about their experiences conducting this work, their successes, and the upcoming steps forward in this project during the next school year. Thank you very much. I look forward to being with you at your next meeting.
So we actually got started I'm Emily, I teach 4th grade at South Hill. We actually got started 2 years ago when Samantha Little came to myself and Sarah and said, hey, you guys speak Spanish, you've lived abroad, do you want to bring Spanish into your classroom? And Sarah and I were also 1st and 4th grade buddies, so we incorporated Spanish in our morning meetings and our 1st and 4th grade buddies time, and it was a great success. We got a lot of positive feedback from parents as well as colleagues saying, hey, we'd like to try this out too. And so at the end of that school year, we surveyed all of our colleagues, and they were really positive in terms of bringing it school-wide. And so this year, we got together a group of folks and took Spanish school-wide at South Hill.
So here's our team. Because we took it school-wide, we have 22 classrooms. Every single classroom is learning Spanish at least 15 minutes a day. 15 minutes a week, which is pretty awesome. And so this is our team, and there's also someone who's not pictured, but she is here. Our team is made up of South Hill teachers, ESPs, and parents. And we needed obviously a larger team because we needed, as classroom teachers, we're not able to just always leave our classroom and go teach. However, we do get creative in the sense that I switch with another first grade teacher during a morning meeting, and I will teach Spanish to her class while she is in with mine, and we do that twice a week. So we had to get kind of creative to cover 22 classes. And so this year, when we said, okay, let's take it year school-wide, we need to make this a little bit bigger. IPE grant, this is great. So the goals for this, our students can spontaneously use Spanish in speaking and writing. Students can determine the meaning of Spanish words in context, and students will express an understanding and appreciation for languages and cultures that are different from their own. So these were sort of the goals that we had going into this year. And we'll circle back to this at the end to just talk about like how we measured these goals, how they went, and moving on from there.
I'm Christine, and as part of the Spanish team, I'm going to share about how we use these goals to drive a scope and sequence that we created back in August prior to the start of the school year, to give us a framework of how we wanted to present and what topics to present to all of our learners. In addition to meeting in August prior to the beginning of the school year, we also meet twice a month to discuss materials that we're using, topics that we've covered, and how to advance with our programming. So this is one of the lessons that I've taught. This is a second grade classroom, and one of our goals was to use spontaneous speech. And so this example is using comprehensible input. These students learned previously, gained vocabulary including verbs when they were watching a video. So this video exemplifies their spontaneous speaking abilities.
Little babies broke. Right? Yeah, I got that in the video. It broke.
So after using that video, the students really wanted to share their Spanish with their families. So they asked if they could have something to take home. So we created a book with all of the vocabulary, specifically the verbs that were touched on in that video. So this is an example of one of the pages from the books that went home, and then the students could then go home and read the story to their families.
We are. Why is that so soon? Maybe next one? Can we? Yeah.
Oh, good.
Okay. We'll come back to that.
So, as Steve mentioned, this was a $10,000 grant, and some of that money went into the planning time that Christine was talking about, those bi-monthly meetings, but a lot of the funds went into resources. And so each classroom at South Hill now has a book bin, a red book bin of books in Spanish, and this is just a sample of a few of the books from the 4th grade bin. And so we've got some books that are really just sort of picture dictionaries or books on vocabulary on different themes, colors, animals, etc. But then we've also got bilingual books that sort of bring in the conversational Spanish little by little. We've got some classics that the students already know the story in English and love, and so hearing it in Spanish, they can pick up a lot of that vocabulary in context there. We've also got this book I don't know if you've read this to your small family members. Brown bear, what do you see? It's a story, but that also teaches that animal and color vocabulary in the story. So things like that. And then we also, to the extent possible, this proved to be a little bit more difficult than we had hoped, was trying to get some informational books that tied into the case studies that different grade levels were doing. So for example, right now in 4th grade, we are studying, each student is studying a different animal in our local ecosystem. And so we got a nonfiction book in Spanish on the life cycle of a butterfly. And some students are studying butterflies, but all students are studying the life cycle of their animal. So that was a way to bring in the content that they're already learning about in their class in Spanish.
And this is an example of the things that we do besides having those 15 minutes. Some of us only have 15 minutes to go in and teach a lesson in that classroom. So this is an example of greetings and how to have them practice greeting, like hola, ¿cómo estás? Muy bien, gracias. This game would be in the classroom. I have one for each class in kindergarten. And they can use it and play at choice time. The teacher can decide how she wants to have them practice what they've learned in Spanish. So that's a good example of how to stretch those 15 minutes. This is Miss Fessie's class, and they are super excited here to show me how they are learning the month in Spanish. This is also another resource that we have at South Hill is a website called La Escuelita, and that's a really good resource for the teachers and parents at home. If the kids want to practice their Spanish, they can go and see what they can do to have fun. Really, they think they're just having fun, and they
are having fun.
And the teachers use the website to either play some games in Spanish. Under resources, we also list a bunch of other things that they can go to as a resource for Spanish for the classroom or as a parent. And we also have music videos for the kids that love those Spanish music videos.
I was going to say, a really cool thing that came out, I know I think we envisioned like, oh, this would be really great to share with families, but something that was cool, just an anecdote from the third grader, that like indoor recess, they were taking their Chromebooks out and going on La Escuelita, and they were going back to videos and songs and things that they had already learned as just like a personal choice. So that just was an exciting thing to see them independently pulling things up from here. Okay, so coming back to where we had our goals, we started with, at the end of the year, sort of just in the last few weeks, we sent out some feedback to families, asking them for feedback, saying like, hey, how's this going at home? For this was, how often does your child spontaneously use Spanish, determine the meaning of Spanish words in context, or express an understanding and appreciation? So this is just sort of one snippet from the questionnaire. There was also, we entered a ton of comments. They sent them in, a lot of them. Some of them were online, some of them were in paper though, and so we're typing them in for a long time. And it was fantastic feedback. So what we see here for the first year, I think we're feeling pretty good about how sometimes, often, they are using this at home. A lot of parents gave feedback saying that we're driving around, and someone sees a white car and the kid can at least express like blanco, even if they're just saying white, they're able to express that. They're out seeing something and they don't know, and they're asking their parents, how do you say this? We even had families who, this is their third language that they're learning, and I have a student who speaks French and English at home. Dad is talking to her in French, and she's now responding in Spanish, which is he's happy about this. It was just such a cool thing that like all of these languages are just coming together in that way. So really cool feedback. Can we go back? Here we go. Okay. So we also put it out to staff and said, were you able to practice Spanish with students outside of the regular lesson time? Because we do have staff, obviously, who don't speak Spanish. Our goal was for them to be present during the lesson so that they could then reinforce it throughout the day. We had 68.8% of the entire school, all the teachers saying that yes, they were able to use it. And it's easy to incorporate, I think. I don't want to say easy because it's challenging in some ways. However, if you have a Spanish word that you have just learned, you can be doing math and then throw in cinco, the number 5, right? Yeah. You could be learning in kindergarten shapes or colors or whatever it is, and those are how they're just spontaneously integrating it throughout the day. So because a couple feedback from parents that we did have was, we're concerned that this is taking time away from learning the core. We want our kids to read and to write and to do math, and let's learn that first. And so I think definitely, in going forward, we were talking about how that on us, we want to sort of explain that more, saying like, oh, absolutely, we're not doing, this is not an instead of, this is just a enhancement and on top of piece. And so we have some things going forward.
And also just some personal feedback from ourselves as the educators here. I pushed into the classrooms, and I thought that was a really great experience. The students saw me as their Spanish teacher, and they really looked forward to their Spanish time. So it was a great experience for myself being a push-in. As for the classroom teachers, it was also great for them because they were, again, able to weave in the Spanish into their other areas of the curriculum. So we had positive for both the outside pushing plus the inside classroom teacher.
Well, I did talk a little bit about the materials thing, and the website is another way to input, supplement, or to also kind of add more to outside of the classroom at home, and also playground time is also time for music. And I use that time for kindergarten, 4th grade sometimes, but mostly kindergarten, to reinforce some Spanish by listening to our favorite songs that we've learned in class in Spanish.
And we've touched a little bit on integrating the Spanish into the regular classroom curriculum, but that's something that we want to do more. And actually, in some of the comments of feedback that we got from our colleagues was, wouldn't it be great if we could co-plan a little bit? And so that's something that we want to explore next year too.
And then also moving forward, I think a couple of things that we're wanting to tie in more is the cultural and the community piece. And so I think we want to really reach out more into our community and say, what is it that you guys have? Can you come in and let's integrate that into the classroom? So that was a big piece. And then also just a sustainability piece, we're also continuing to meet for the rest of the year, a couple more weeks, because what we want to do is we want to sort of take this model and create it in a way so that any school could come to us, and any language really, like we want to teach French, we want to teach Mandarin, whatever it is, they could sort of take this model, take our lessons, the scope and sequence of it, and really plug anything into it. So that's sort of also where we are in moving forward.
And then so again, we want to thank Samantha Little, Dr. Peter Martin, and the IC mini grant program, which sort of got the seed going. IPEI obviously for this huge boost. Perry coming in new, just jumped right on and said, how can I support you. And then leading into Liddy and Dr. Brown in collaboration with Perry, we have great news that in the budget that was just approved, we've got some funds for a part-time teacher to come in and teach Spanish at South Hill to support and increase that time from the 15 minutes to the 30 minutes. The details haven't been worked out yet, but we're really excited about that. And oh yes, and then the other thing is we elementary folks I think sometimes forget that the secondary has a different schedule, and so we reached out to our LACS colleagues too late. That's our bad, but we worked with Kylie and Nora at LACS and their students, and so actually groups of LACS students would come and teach Spanish lessons in our classroom, and we're off to a great start, and we just want to make that a more regular thing so that those LACS students are teaching lessons that build upon each other. And then, again, we've gotten great support from our students, our staff, and our families at South Hill. So.
Outstanding. Any quick questions or not so quick questions, Elder? Go ahead.
Yeah, so we've been having this conversation behind the scenes for a while now about the power of bilingual education in elementary, and Maura has been pressing our curriculum committee to think about it. We talked with David Brown, who's in the audience, about expanding the nature of that beyond just language. Dr. Brown has reminded us that coding is bilingual language. Right? Art, dance, drama are bilingual languages. So I heard you say that I think it was you said your platform here is amenable to involving other languages.
Yeah.
What if we signed you all up to do the same thing for bilingual experiences beyond simply language? Can you guide us down the path and help us understand what you did if we wanted to introduce coding? You guide us down the path and help us understand what you did if we want to introduce dance, et cetera, et cetera. Think beyond languages, and you guys have created a pathway here. I hope we will use it.
Yeah, I'm biased because I've been part of this for so long, but I'm really proud of what we created. I think it is this really cool thing. I think what you need is someone who really is an expert in that field, right? So I think me not knowing much about coding, right? No, but I could work alongside someone and say, hey, here's how it went with Spanish. I really think that someone could take it. You know about coding, you could take it in that same sequence. I think, I'm confident we could do it.
And I think what you saw in some of the examples of the lessons were there was a lot of movement, there was a lot of music, there was a lot of games, that kind of thing. And it seems like that could lend itself to a more broad conception of language.
Outstanding. Thank you all, and thank again to IPEI. One more outstanding program that they have supported in our district. So, thanks. Great. Thank you all very much. Student reps, I'm looking at Ithaca High, and I'm not even considering LACS because they're not here. So, go ahead.
Thank you, Mr. Neely. So, the most important thing that happened at high school last week was a field day. I think field day this year ran pretty smoothly. I'm not sure if the administration would agree, but there was minimal misbehavior, I think, overall. But the new thing that was incorporated this year's field day was open mic, and open mic is where students are free to sign up to perform in front of the school, and there were a wide variety of acts, including singing, K-pop dance club, Nunchucks Club, which Asha and I were in. We were really good. ICSD and roller derby was another one. And there was also a large presence of school spirit at field day, because JT, who's sitting behind me, was in a large, furry, little red mascot suit in the hot sun, which was a lot of fun to see. And also some other activities were face painting, free food, a bouncy house, and also everyone's favorite teacher dunk tanking. And then some other outdoor games were volleyball, frisbee, football, and soccer. So all in all, it was a nice way to end the school year and a good reward to students for all their hard work over the school year.
Yeah, I agree. I think it was a really big success this year. There was like a really good mixture of structure versus like people could choose the activities they want to go to.
Okay, so also on the last day of school, not as important as field day, but the senior class attempted to pull a prank. In my opinion, it wasn't very good. So basically, the gist of the prank was they put a bunch of the Lime bikes in the staff parking lot. And just from talking, there were a lot of them. Just from talking to the seniors, a lot of them who participated and they regretted it because they realized that it wasn't that good of a prank and they ended up just spending a lot of money on the Lime bikes. The Lime bikes were removed swiftly from the school, so it didn't have that much of an effect.
Okay, so for some events, senior prom is this Saturday, June 16th at Celebrations, and graduation is June 22nd. The ACT took place last Saturday, June 9th, and SAT on June 2nd.
Recently, there were senior and underclassmen awards. I heard that a lot of seniors won great awards. They were well honored.
The band concert was on May 23rd, and it was a really spectacular event. And the IHS Jazz concert is taking place right now at the Carriage House.
And also, we'd like to take time to introduce the new.
Okay, yeah. So, school elections took place May 25th, and we have some of our newly elected board reps here. So you guys can just introduce yourselves. So name and grade.
I'm Haley Ackerman, and I'm currently a junior at IHS.
I'm JT Stone, and this year I'll be a junior at IHS. I'm Benu Kadiali. I'm a rising senior.
Well, very good. And, well, thanks, Ithaca High. Thanks for your service. It was great to have you here all year long. And any other board responses before we move on about anything?
I want to know what teachers were in the dunk tank.
Okay, so let's see. Miss Seifert was in there.
Mr. Highland, too.
Mr. Kirk got very dressed up for it, and he was in there as well. He was in a suit, yes. Who else was in there?
Maybe needed washing, who knows?
That's about it, I think.
Okay, thank you.
Teachers that were brave enough to get in.
I understand the idea and the comment about the Lime bikes, but as someone who doesn't ride them, I have to say I was pretty impressed. When I went onto my app and saw that many Lime bikes in one location, that was a pretty interesting thing to see by watching that. So I understand it's a relative perspective. And as part of the board policy committee meeting last Tuesday, a week from today, we had the Lake Room from Bell Sherman join us, and a group of fifth graders engage us in a conversation about the student code of conduct. And completely blown away by their insight, by their creativity, by their compassion. They kept saying that students should be seen, known, and heard, and asking us to think about the ways in which our language and Ithaca City School District does not reflect their realities. And so to engage in that level of discourse with fifth graders was beyond impressive. So congrats to the Bell Sherman fifth graders who came, and we look for more of those engagements as the year goes on. That was fantastic.
Absolutely. Anyone else? David?
I don't know if I'm allowed to speak at this point, but I did want
David, you're still here. Go ahead.
I wanted to thank the students because of K-pop and the nunchucks, and there's been several different student organizations that have been using the dance studio this year, and it's a space that we've really wanted to utilize more. So thank you for doing that. It's outside of my office, and it's been really exciting to hear the music and the dancing and the movement that's happening in our dance studio, so keep that up. So thank you very much.
The board probably shouldn't know anything more about nunchucks, but we'll go back. We'll talk about that some other point in time.
Sorry, I missed it.
And, Sean, do we have another policy committee meeting before the end of the school year?
Most likely if I get my act together, yes.
Well, we will be continuing to talk about the code of conduct And newly elected student reps to the board, you might think about attending that meeting because we would really value and appreciate your input.
Policy work sessions are spellbinding, so I never miss an opportunity to
discuss the commas and
the words and all that. That's right. So we'll move on, but I am looking at David Brown. David, we mentioned your name at commendations a little while ago, but I do want to thank you, David. You're on to be superintendent of another district. We do that fairly often in this district. We say goodbye to folks that are going to go take their talents elsewhere. David, you've been a part of the Fine and Performing Arts, part of the exec team, but then back Fine and Performing Arts, it's really, you've done an outstanding job, really doing what we wanted, which was really open up the Fine and Performing Arts to as many students as possible, and really expanding the amount of kids that would be able to enjoy, participate, and be able to be up on the stage and get a standing O. I mean, which there's a tremendous amount of talent. I think we've just expanded the opportunities for that talent to be involved. So, David, thank you. You've got a few more weeks here, but I'm sure you're thinking about that next superintendency job and doing a bit of that as well. So thank you, David, and we appreciate it.
Thank you.
And Sean, we had no other public comments signed up, so we're going to keep moving, right? Because we do want to get to folks. And consent agenda, which...
I'll move the consent as presented.
Second.
And there are a variety of items here. Anything that anybody has any questions about? Are we good? Anyone? Move seconded without further...
Well, I should probably comment on the security project.
Right.
The Smart Bond project, after languishing for 2 years with our esteemed state education department, was finally approved, unchanged from when it was submitted as 2 years ago. But I'm glad they took 2 years to go through it. We'll be approving the contract tonight to move ahead with that. You'll recall that this is the key cards for all doors. It's more cameras at the high school and also the other entries are part of it. Hopefully the contractor can get a lot of it done this summer, but this is very late to be hiring summer work. We'll see how much actually gets done, but it will get finished eventually. But at least now it's approved and it's in our hands, not in the hands of the state.
And we never thought we'd see the day, but it's been years, frankly. So we appreciate the work and the patience. Anything else on the consent? E, go ahead.
Yeah, just want to, there's a lot of conversation in this community, and has been for my 10 years on the board, which predates Dr. Brown's tenure, about our inability to attract quality talent of color. Right? So tonight, I think it's pretty extraordinary that we have someone joining us who matches all of the qualifications I could ever want for a man of color who can help this district move forward. And we might be close to saying goodbye to a young lady who I've watched grow in her capacity here, who knows more about education in classrooms and dealing with kids than I ever will. Right? We just get up to sit here and pretend. And I want to especially thank Dad. Dr. James has been integrally involved in both. Right? The way she has become familiar with this community, understands how to introduce folks to what we really are, what we want, and what we aren't, and make them feel comfortable that there is a place in this community for them, has been nothing short of spectacular. I think we as an institution have some issues with state budget cuts and with making positions available for those folks. And I'm just going to say it, in my opinion, at times we've had recalcitrant building leaders who are just not ready for diversity. Right? So Dr. Brown, continue to push us. what you're doing is obvious, and I'm personally thanking you for it.
There you go. Anyone else? We good? We're still on the consent, right? Did we get it?
Yes.
Okay. So all in favor of the consent? That is everyone. So thank you all. And now, Dr. Brown.
And you're asking me to follow up here. Thank you for the opportunity, Mr. Ainsley. And thank you to all board members for voting in favor of the recommendations this evening, particularly those administrative appointments. And I'm going to try my best to go through them all. But before going through the appointments, yes, David Brown is transitioning into a superintendent, and we're so proud of him and excited to continue to work with him in that capacity. And Ms. Crystal Sessoms is, Matt Landau we hired a few years ago, and he transitioned into the superintendency. We now have 8 folks who transitioned to the superintendency in our great state from the City School District in the last 7 years. And Dr. Landau left last year, and obviously he started recruiting some of our best people. And he was able to land someone in a way where she's able to go home. So Crystal Sessoms is going to be principal of an elementary school in Beacon, New York. There's only 2 places in the state you can be, here and Beacon. To go to Beacon. So that, and we're going to have some conversations tonight about some administrative transitions, and we'll have more transitions hopefully at the next board meeting. But, we're very excited this evening to talk about Infield Elementary first, where we had an opportunity to be with the staff and the community just yesterday. And for the first time in probably 7 years, they clapped when we finished talking. And I was shocked. And it wasn't because of my suit. It was because of the people that we were recommended. And it was Keith Harrington is going to be the principal at Infield Elementary next year. Congratulations, Keith. Thank you. And joining him on that team, I think this is why so many folks are so happy. We're bringing a team of talented educators there. Kristen Herms is going to be transitioning from the classroom at DeWitt this year into the assistant principalship at Infield. Congratulations, Kristen. Moving on up that feeder pattern, there was an opening at Boynton Middle School also. And we finished the process. We were looking for a future superintendent. We said that to every candidate. And this particular candidate came in for the final round of the interview, and she must have known what I wanted to hear. She said, I'm here to be a future superintendent. And she's committed to this community. She's been an outstanding teacher, and she's done her admin internship and primed to be one of our best administrators. Lauren Wright is going to be the associate principal. And then there's Jason Trumbull, who's been crying for 2 weeks. He's turned different shades of red. He's been in my office every day. I've tried my best to console this dude. But I keep saying to him, we need to reload now, not rebuild. So he and our team of folks have gone out and we found some very talented educators to replace 2 very, very talented educators. And we're excited, so excited, that Colin Gray is going to be now assuming an associate principal role. A lot of local talent, and that's the beauty of our organization now. We're cultivating some local talent from folks who've been in classrooms here throughout the district, multiple schools, multiple administrative roles, and switching administrative roles. That's a beautiful thing. But we also enjoy that new perspective, and we have sought out the best talent in our region and the state. And fortunately, we've been able to talk folks into moving into this great community. Corey Mitchell and his daughter, Nia, did I get it right? Yeah. That's right, Nia. This amazing family is going to be moving into our community, and he's going to be assuming the associate principalship at the high school. We're on fire, Mr. Ainsley and the board. We're having a good time. Now, there's more to come. And as we said to our admin team today, as we had our last admin team meeting of the year, I am appreciative and honored to work with a group of educators who expect to be flexible, who expect to evolve to meet the needs of the organization versus the organization evolving to meet the needs of individuals. Folks on this team, we've had folks who've been teachers in all parts of our school community, and now assuming assistant superintendencies, chief academic officer roles, superintendencies. So folks are expecting to evolve and do different things in our efforts to be fresh and innovative. So thank you to my team, and we're looking forward to the summer and work ahead. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Brown. That was a lot, Dr. Brown. You've been saving up.
I've been saving up, yeah.
then we're going to continue to move on, and Diane Carruthers.
Yeah, and I'm going to ask Diane to come up here, because, you know, we've had every school building come before the board this year. And in each one of those previous instances, we've asked them to respond to some, you know, the questions around cultural responsiveness, inclusion, and teaching, learning, and innovation. We saved this particular presentation or conversation for last, and I've asked Diane just to show up and maybe share her reflections. I mean, we have to recognize that we are in the presence of a community legend. And I remember my first day on the job, I walked in and she was facilitating a professional development opportunity. She was a teacher at the time, a social studies teacher. And I kept hearing about this person named Diane. Diane, I heard from you about how great she was. And just sitting back and watching her navigate that conversation, what she shared about instruction, what she shared about how she built relationships with young people, changed me. And I'll never forget that conversation. And every opportunity I have to be with Diane, I learn and grow. And I would say everyone would say the same thing about you. Diane's been in our school district for 28 years. And, you know, when you have your face painted on the wall in your school, you know you've done something. Her and that night, I can't figure it out. Their faces are huge. They're still working in this school. I thought there was a state law against that, but that's another story. But I asked her to come tonight just simply to reflect and share anything that was on her heart and her mind, because I know that her speaking in that way will learn and grow. But before we turn it over to you, for however long you want, and I didn't prep her on anything, let me tell you what you was about. I want to make sure, you know, we typically don't give out any special certificates or awards for folks who are transitioning out, sorry, David and Crystal. But in this case, I couldn't pass on an opportunity to give her something to remember us by. Because quite frankly, after July 1, we're going to be calling you anyway, with hopes to do some more work with us. But you have this special award plaque or something that says, to Diane Carruthers in recognition of your 28 years of commitment and love for the young people in the Issel City School District. Yeah. You got 2 minutes or 20, it's up to you. Yeah.
I actually do not, I'm not prepared at all, so I just want to thank you all for this opportunity. And first time I met you, Dr. Brown, I remember you talking about getting the right people on the bus. I can still remember that phrase, and I thought, I want to be on your bus. So thank you for the opportunity to do that. I don't know what's on my mind right now is I just left a senior meeting before coming here tonight. The young man's name was Mohammed, and Abe and Denise Lee joined us for that meeting. So that was really a wonderful, so what's on my mind is how much they've given the community and how much I've learned from them. And to see them show up for this young man, to honor him, was really quite lovely. So that's what's on my mind right now, and we're in the midst of all these senior meetings, where each young person gets, an hour to an hour and a half, however long it takes, where we sit and appreciate them and hear their reflections and get to learn from them and what's on their mind. So that's what I'm thinking about these days. Yeah.
Question from the board, reaction from the board for Diane. Yeah.
So how many seniors are graduating this year?
38.
38. And I also saw on the schedule that this evening was also scheduling meetings for incoming sixth graders.
Yes.
And so how many incoming sixth graders?
We have 44 incoming sixth graders. And yes, they're right now, or maybe they're finished up by now, but they were getting to work out their first, one of the things that kids come to LACS for is the idea that they have choice and they have some say over their schedule and a lot of other things. So they were getting, planning out their schedule, getting to choose their afternoon classes and decide what family group leaders they might want to work with and committees and other things. So that's a pretty exciting time too. Yeah.
I don't have a question, but I'm not going to miss the opportunity to acknowledge Diane's brilliance in this community. I moved to this community in the mid-'90s, and I happened by chance to stop up to LACS one time when someone told me about this amazing school. And the day I stopped up there, I happened to meet Mac Knight. That was the first person I met, who was actually going to do some interviews and pulling applications, and said, "Do you have an application in?" And I said, "Yes." He said, "We'll be in touch." And so that was great. And so the next year I got hired, and Diane mentored me. We co-taught a class that my first year, and what a great lesson to be taught by a master educator, to be able to make your mistakes as a first-year teacher, to be able to ask someone for counsel about how to proceed. And so it's been a real blessing to learn from you in particular, and to watch your career. And so on behalf of the folks that I know in the community, you're going to be dearly missed, and we so appreciate your commitment and service to the young folks in our community. So I love you, and I'm going to miss you.
Well, not trying to get emotional, I just want to definitely show my appreciation, especially, I always say this, we entrust our children to this school district, and I have entrusted my child with you, and I don't take that lightly, especially since it's my daughter. And I truly appreciate everything you brought to the table to help nurture her and help her become who she is and who she's becoming. So I truly appreciate that.
Looking forward to her senior meeting.
Yeah.
Anyone else? Last thoughts, Diane?
I just, again, want to thank all of you for the opportunities I've had. My own children have grown up in this school district. My grandchildren, some of my grandchildren are growing up in this school district, and I'm just really grateful for the opportunities I've had and for all the different people I've been able to work with. You're one of those special people to me, Sean. I learned just as much, if not more, from you. It was a pleasure, Mac, other people that have really been mentors to me too. So it's been a wonderful career, and I always said I want to, the time to leave is when you still love what you do, and I definitely still love what I do. And it's with very, very mixed feelings that I'm stepping away, but the time feels right. So thanks very much, everyone.
And we still have more. Elementary case study design team.
Hello, everyone. We know to grow 6,000 plus thinkers that we must engage, educate, and empower youth to reach their potential. And this vision can be realized when we deliver curriculum that engages students in creativity, mastery, and purpose. And so tonight we wanted to share with you some work that teachers are doing in our school districts and students are creating that really acknowledges that teaching is an art and curriculum design is an art. And so before we start that, I'd like to kind of give you a backstory of where we are so far with curriculum design and case study design. So a case study is an interdisciplinary project-based learning that leverages the creative process of literacy to build a deep understanding of content. And that can typically looks like, starts with a big idea question that then leads to field study with an expert where there's evidence collected, and then it leads to a product that's created that's meaningful and purposeful beyond the classroom that really is authentic and presented to an authentic audience. So you have this handout in front of you, and it's jam-packed information. I'd like to just paint
some broad strokes of this work. So as you can see, we've been on this journey to bring life to this vision and mission for ICSD students through transforming our curriculum for more than 5 years now. And it's a really thoughtful, measured change that began at the elementary level with our youngest students and has its eye on changing the learning experience for all students, K-12, and it empowers teachers as agents of that change. We have grown in measured ways to build focus and clarity among teachers and to train all in the fundamentals of this work, again, K-12. Since last summer, we've seen almost every secondary teacher participate in Project-Based Learning 101, and then we launched Project-Based Learning 102 with in-person, in-classroom support and training, implementation, and reflection. As a result, our secondary students now have seen a marked increase in project-based learning. So this work, we are seeing kids rising up through our schools, having had and expecting this type of learning. The elementary lead case study designer project represents another powerful shift forward. This cohort that's going to present behind us have created our first exemplars that are replicable at the grade level throughout the ICSD elementary classrooms. It will help provide all teachers with a strong base with excellent resources, texts, and inquiry-based experiences. This exemplary work is grounded on the richest vision of standards brought to life that teachers across the district can tailor to their particular place and students. The teachers coming before you are the very first cohort of this project, and you will see their hard work, vision, and commitment to the very best learning in ICSD. All right.
Yeah, so as you can see up here, we have 14 teachers that are part of our first cohort of lead case study designers. This program that we have piloted and launched this year is really in response to hearing from folks over the last 5 years, hearing from our teachers as we work to build capacity and knowledge around designing curricular experiences as described by Daphne and Jen, that teachers wanted models. They wanted to know what it looked like. Some teachers were just not at a place where they felt like they could design themselves. They said, I need to see what it looks like. I need to be able to implement somebody else's design to really get comfortable with this. So that's what we've been working on with this group of teachers this year, to really build out those models so that teachers can take a colleague's design and implement it with their own kids and provide this type of learning experience and learn through that model. You'll see we have teachers representing 7 of our 8 elementary schools in this cohort, which is amazing. Through this, we have case studies, model exemplar case studies for 4 out of our 7 elementary grade levels, and we're looking at pre-K through 5. And for many grade levels, we have multiple models that have come out of this work. And through this program, we've really been able to give a small monetary incentive to some of our elementary teachers that are really leading the way and pushing their practice to make this vision of learning a reality for students. And they have put in an amazing amount of time to take their work and their curriculum designs through a really rigorous process of feedback. We've been using a rubric, and Jen, Daphne, and I have been working with them to provide multiple rounds of feedback where we take back, revise, try new things with kids, and come back with refined curriculum that we look at again together. And through this process, I've got to say the level of work that has come out of this is more than I have seen in the last 5 years of our work, so it's really moved us in an important way. And the way it built my own capacity and how to support teachers was also another really great advantage and win from this program, and I think Daphne and Jen feel the same way, that we have just grown a lot in our ability to support teachers. So without further ado, we're going to turn it over to a couple of our cohort members to share what their students are doing as a result of this work.
both kindergarten teachers at Beverly Martin. So we piloted a case study called Animals in My Neighborhood. And one of the kindergarten science standards is students will use a model to represent the relationship between the needs of plants or animals and the places that they live. This standard would really allow you to study any plant or animal, but in striving to create authenticity and engagement for our students who live and learn right downtown, we focused on wild animals that are well adapted to living in near proximity to humans in urban settings. And we really noticed that a huge increase in the student awareness and connectedness to the natural world that's right in our midst living in Ithaca. Everybody's had that skunk smell around their head once, or a trash can knocked over some morning. In the photographs that you see, the model that the students made for their culminating project is an ideal backyard that includes features that they chose that would meet all the needs of the wild animal that they chose to study. So it has to include shelter, food, water, potential defense. So this is photos taken at our celebration of learning today with the kids explaining their models to their family guests. Go to the next slide.
So the overarching essential question for our case study was, is an urban neighborhood a better or worse environment for a wild animal? And through lots of research, using books, videos, at the outdoors, our field expert that came in through Cayuga Nature Center, the students were really able to assess, given the adaptations that they learned about with each animal, is it better or worse to live in a city for the animals that we have in Ithaca? And on the next slide, you will see, this is just an example of like the conversations that we were having throughout the study, beginning right several months ago when we started, continuing up through yesterday. This is just a set of the diagrams that we created to use as a guideline for our conversations. And I'm not sure if you can see, but on those little Post-its are one of 6 animals that we covered, which were squirrels, bats, robins, crows, raccoons, and skunks. So all of our students they got to choose an animal that they wanted to study out of those 6. We split them up into groups, and they were able to assume the perspective of that animal and deciding, which one would be better for me to live in. So yeah, we had a lot of really thoughtful, deep conversations throughout the case study.
I think the photo on the left shows some of the critique and revision process. You can see that some of the line drawings are kids learning how to draw their animal through a step-by-step process, seeing what geometric shapes are within an animal, and then gradually adding color and really thinking about the elements of their representation of the animals that are scientific and comparing that to the imaginary pictures that they also like to draw. And as well as their revision process in writing. A case study has a high-quality public product, so what we chose for our final culminating product is to make outdoor signs that will, about each animal of the 6 that we chose, that we studied, that will be placed around our school so that visitors to our playground and people walking down Buffalo Street can learn about the interplay between the wildlife and humans and how we can coexist in an urban setting, and what are some of the advantages of keeping wildlife, supporting wildlife in our area. And I should give a shout out to IPEI also, because the posters, as well as our community partner with Cuba Nature Center, was supported with a community partnership teacher grant. In this process, we just also want to thank the team, because this had such a positive impact on our practice, facilitating co-teaching and really setting the bar so high for our case study and the learning. That it was very meaningful.
And I'm Randy Beckman, and I teach first grade at Bell Sherman School. And to piggyback on Nancy and Andrea, we really were required to do very high quality work. And when I handed my first round in, and I thought, ooh, really good, and they were like, really good, but not so good. And really, they worked us hard. And I said to Lynn, in the application, they said, how likely are you to complete this project? And I was like, I'm 5. Like, of course, when then it was like when I was a 3 in the middle of the year, I was like, I said I was a 5. I gotta stick with it. So anyway, I'm gonna talk about this case study called Tell Me More. It discussed families, and it's part of the New York State Social Studies standards. It addresses a standard. They are very highfalutin for very little kids. Language, beliefs, customs, and traditions help shape the identity and culture of a family and a community. And this was a very large case study, but I'm going to talk about one part of it, which was a names unit. And the children used social studies practices to ask each other about how they were named. And they turned and talked, and it was like, how are you named? Don't really know. How was you named? I think I told my mother what I wanted to be named when I was in her stomach. It didn't really go anywhere. So we developed a whole bunch of questions, and then the children interviewed their families about it, and very high levels of engagement. So what does anybody, parent, want to talk about more but their own children, with their children? So we can go to the next slide. The purpose was real. It was authentic. The final project, we can look again to the next slide, was they made self-portraits. We took what they had written. They were written up. I don't think you can see there. I can't even tell whose name it is. But we have children who speak 11 different languages in our classroom. So in addition, they were written in their the way they're written in their own language. So in Korean and Farsi and Arabic and Hebrew and a zillion languages. I think I made a really short video, and I'd like to show you a really small clip of it. I thought there were some pretty powerful moments that came out of it.
Tell us about the name project. First, we asked each other about our names. We didn't know really about our names. We made questions to know about one. And then we took the sheet of paper home, and then we interviewed our parents. We asked our parents how we were named. They wrote the answers to the questions. And we took it back to school, and then the teachers read it, and then we knew about everyone's names. I liked reading the names.
She liked reading the names.
My great-great-great-grandfather, I think, was named Sam, and he owned a farm, and not a lot of black people in that time could own farms.
My name is Emily Graver, and I'm here representing the third grade team from Cuba Heights Elementary. And although my colleagues Spencer Hill and Kim Snow are not with me, they were definitely a large part of building this case study up from the groundwork that was done years and years and years ago, as they've discussed. We have tried this out, we've edited it, we've revised it, we've experimented with the kids, and now they've asked us to bring it up to this really, really high quality level, and so I've been working on getting that done for the kids. So our case study is called Countries, Cultures, and Crumpets. Spencer Hill is British, just in case none of you know, so crumpets was kind of our thing. And our big compelling questions for these case studies was what is culture, and how does culture make us similar or different? And as we've all sort of said, these questions are big and these ideas are big, and bringing them down to kid level and making them understandable has been a big challenge, but it's been a lot of fun. And so in our case study, you start with looking into what kind of cultures are represented in our Cuba Heights community, because we have students from all over the world that come into our school. And so what are those cultures? Where do those kids come from? And doing some research into what those cultures are. And then the students get to choose one of those countries and dig a little bit deeper into the culture of that country. And so the students have some choice in that they get to pick which country they research, and also they get to choose what aspects of culture they would like to research themselves. So for a student who's really into dance, they might look into the arts of that country. For a student who's more into languages, they may look deeply at what kind of languages are spoken in that culture. And so the students spend a lot of time doing some independent research, and then they come back and they write some informational paragraphs, and they pair it with some images of the cultures that are represented, and they create an informational page. And then we hang those pages up and we invite families into what we call our international tea time. And Spencer, our British colleague, he serves a proper cup of tea to all of the families, and we share all of these cultural foods from all the different countries that are represented, and the students get to show off the work that they've done in researching and reporting about all of these countries. And then after all of that is finished, those pages get put into a book that we're hoping to keep in the office of the school, so that anybody who comes in can take a look and say, oh, these are all the people that are in Cuba Heights, and this is where they come from, and these are the cultures that we have represented here. And then as a last step, the students will look at how are those cultures, now that we've done all this research, how are they the same and how are they different, and what does that mean for us as a community? How does that enrich our community and really make us kind of a very unique place, a very special place, and what do those differences or similarities mean for us as a community? And just something that my team has found with this case study work is that the level of student engagement it's really high, because there's so much choice involved, and the students really are invested in what they're doing and making these projects and having high quality work, and they work together to help each other peer revise and edit, and so it's really sort of a team effort, and the outcome is pretty amazing when it's all finished.
Just to wrap up things first, the work, not only designing the case studies, but documenting the work, so having something that other teachers could pick up and do. These folks and the others that are part of the cohort have not only come up with a plan, but really written out a sequence of lessons, embedded within that all sorts of examples of student work. They've embedded the assessments that go along with it, so anything that they use to really know what students are learning and respond to that, they've included in this, so that really it's a whole package. So, companies all over the world are trying to sell us stuff, but this is locally developed curriculum that is really meaningful to the students that are sitting in our schools. So I'm honored that you all jumped at this challenge, and that the time and energy you put into it. And moving forward, these lead case study designers, not only is their work going to be available to teachers to use, but they will be providing professional development to support their grade level colleagues in being able to implement these case studies in their own classrooms if they choose. I want to be clear that these models and exemplars are really a resource that is available to teachers, and it's not an expectation that every kindergartner is going to do the animals in our backyard case study, but it is available to teachers now as they come through. We want to continue to expand our collection of projects and case studies through the lead case study and project designer program, and really expand that into the secondary level too. This has been a great process for us. and other things around curriculum work, just continuing to provide more opportunities for teachers to have facilitated time to do the hard work of designing really thoughtful projects, project-based learning units, and coupling that with in-classroom support for planning and implementation and reflection. So having somebody to come in and sit side by side with you as you're trying something new or trying out a project and thinking about, how did that work? What might we do different? Is something we're always looking to do more of as a professional development team. And then finally, really working with building leaders to think about how they can really embed and extend this curriculum work to the ongoing building-based professional development that happens through staff meetings, whole group PLCs, small group PLCs, so that it is not district curriculum work, building-based work, but it's really one track trying to change how students are experiencing schools every day for us. Thank you for your time. There are 4 other exemplar case studies that came out of this cohort. Those teachers weren't able to be with us tonight. All of these will be available electronically, so we'll make sure that you all have that link so that you can check out those other exemplars.
That's right. Any
questions for
I'm sure a few. Go ahead.
I do have one question, because you said it was, what would you say the biggest challenges were to do this? Like, that when you said in the middle of it.
It's a really good question. You know, it is, first of all, they're big. They're not small. They are questions that require deep thought and contemplation. And you're asking kids to grapple with tough stuff. And then there's a lot of it. So you're writing upwards of, 10 to 20, even though you have to write them out as a whole lesson plan, but lesson plans and how do you assess each of these? So it's a big amount of material, and many of us made videos to accompany them, just 3 to 5 minutes, but that takes a lot to put together. So it's, we were talking before about the exhausting parts of teaching. It can be crushing. It really can be crushing. But these kinds of leadership opportunities are the antidote to that. It's what keeps you excited and top of your field and moving forward and feeling like you're sharing and giving and getting all at the same time.
Well
Did I
said.
answer your question?
Yeah.
I have a couple of questions that also deal with challenges, and specifically challenges related to inclusion. So for instance, in your project, Randy, did you have any kids who are not living with family members who know anything?
It's
Right.
such a good question, and the leaders really challenged me on it. First of all, it required a lot of outreach and a lot of knowing how to reach families.
Right.
Oh, that dad really likes to be texted, and that one wants to be, and that one we got to go to their home. And I have a co-teacher who's an E&L teacher who was able to really help with that. And then one kid, they said, we didn't name our child. We didn't name the child. What are we going to do? And so we went together and we looked up the meaning of the name.
Right.
And that was really powerful for him because it meant something very strong and powerful. He was thrilled by that. So you are right. It is a challenge and an important challenge, and one that had to be dealt with really sensitively. But I should also say that every parent, I haven't had great parent participation this year, but every single parent showed up for this celebration of learning. And so did Mr. Granger and Dr. Brown.
And so for Emily, it occurred to me a challenge with inclusion that might have come up for your project is, so you're talking about the Cayuga Heights community. Some of the kids in the school live in Cayuga Heights. Some of those kids live across town. So how did you negotiate that?
It's not easy. Our population is very tricky to deal with sometimes, but it also is what makes us really special in a lot of ways. And we talk a lot about that. We have some really deep discussions during all of this research just about where we come from in this town and what that means for us, and even just getting to school every day. And so for us, part of that is just having those really almost hard discussions with the students about, it takes you 2 minutes to walk to school and it takes that person 20 minutes to bus across town, and what does that mean for each of you? When we look at their culture, it's a little bit further back removed from just the immediate Ithaca area. When we look at where their families come from or those kinds of cultures, so it doesn't really impact that aspect of it, or it hasn't yet. But those conversations have been really meaningful for our classroom community in bringing us together to say, yeah, we are from two different sides of town, but this is what we have that's shared, and you bring this thing to it, and that's amazing, and you bring this thing to it, and that's what makes us what we are.
Can I just add just a little bit onto that, and that this type of work that these teachers signed up for and carried through on really marries these incredibly rich vision of the standards are asking tough questions. There are not easy answers, and helping kids understand the complexity of the types of answers that come up, even as simple as where is the best place for an animal to live. There's no one best place. There are many ways to be named. There are many parts of our community, right? The understanding and building a community in a classroom that you brought this up with inclusion. When I think about this, the gift that the support of this work has given us as a team and as teachers and as watchers of learning for kids is that that type of planning with feedback and time to talk makes us better teachers for every single kid. We are able to think through how to do it in the best possible way. So thank you.
Those were my thoughts as I listened to all of your presentations in terms of encouraging young people to have these difficult conversations, and how sometimes we underestimate what kids are able to do, and it's really adults that we're not ready to have those conversations. Kids are all about, oh, you're different, tell me about that, whereas with adults, they're afraid to necessarily pinpoint those differences. So like encouraging students to think about differences differently is like something that I saw in all of these, and just asking students to think about other people, because like thinking about being a student and thinking about being an American and this whole like rugged individualism where you're thinking about yourself and where you're going to go with all these projects, it feels like you're encouraging students to think about other people's stories. So learning about someone else's name, like we all have a narrative, so like learning someone else's narrative that you sit on the bus with every day is like a really great way to encourage us to be a community and to think about where we all come from. So, thank you.
What else? Andy, good?
This is just besides the fact that I think they're great projects. One of the things that it sounds like one of the purposes, or I think one of the intent, was to create like a foundation to be able to share and to replicate so that other people could use it. So one of my questions is, how does that replication process work? Like, how do you share what you've learned, both, if you want to do it again, but also to somebody who didn't think it up or might think of it differently, or how do they move to another classroom?
Well, we've all used the same case study planner, which is basically kind of like a unit planner, which most teachers are familiar with looking at. And it has all of the elements, it has all of the supplies, it has the order of events of your study, it has samples of the assessment tools, it has the rubrics attached, and so somebody basically picks it up like a unit plan.
Okay.
And then they can read through all of the elements of the case study. They've helped us with that.
Yeah, I think in addition to those, providing those PD sessions next year so that teachers can come together, other third grade teachers can come and sit with Emily as she shares about how the study unfolded, to be able to ask questions. Teachers be able to share, this was a really tricky part, I had to do this, talking through contacting families. So having that time to really talk through the process is our plan.
The other thing is, there's this nice big plan moving forward that feels like the district has. But just on a kind of micro level, there are websites and we share within. So Caroline started many years ago now with animals in their nature trail. Del Sherman took it and turned it into animals in our backyard, which is vastly different, but we really couldn't have done without Caroline. We passed ours to Nancy and Andrea, and look what theirs turned into. So it really has a way of sort of this iterative process of using what someone has and making it our own local content.
It seems like the animals are very tangible, like that one seems like, it seems like the social studies one might be more nebulous in a way.
Dr. Brown.
Thank you to the educators for being here. This is outstanding. But also thank you to the Board of Education. If I could highlight this document just one more time. This work has taken about 6 years, and this board has committed to building a budget each year to meet the vision and mission of the school district. And each time we've said we wanted to focus on thinking and engagement. So we've had some hard conversations at this table about programs that needed to stop, people that we had to ask not to come back because of budgetary constraints and hard conversations we needed to have, were forced to have. And at the same time, you all supported our approach to teaching and learning in this way. Some of these years represent some significant budget cuts, but we maintain that summer professional development and release time for educators to come do this work. And it culminated in being in your classrooms and seeing how young people are processing and thinking, and particularly today when I was with young men who were on my son's team, and seeing them that they see themselves as BJM scholars, and they're using that word now, and they talk about it on the lacrosse fields, and today sitting there with them, and at 5 years old, they were telling me about why the skunk is going under their porch in an urban environment, and how that's different from what could happen in a rural setting. This was a little dude I saw throw a lacrosse ball last week at my son. and he's processing and thinking and using those words in ways that I couldn't have imagined having happened in my elementary classroom, my kindergarten classroom 15 years ago. So again, thank you for helping our vision and mission become a realization, but particularly to our board and community for supporting our approach to building a budget, because this could have stopped on the vine and died 5 years ago, and you allowed for it to continue, so thank you.
Sean, did you have last comments? Okay.
It's tough to follow that because I think that's part of it. So as a curriculum and pedagogical nerd, I realize that, in many regards, we are ahead of the curve nationally, even while it took us 5 years to get this point in time, right? So the intentionality of trying to be innovative with curriculum is absolutely structural in terms of how we do that. So the support, talent, and gifted folks. And so what I always smile at, I said this to Dr. Brown a number of years ago, we don't have to keep hiring folks to come in and teach us how to do this stuff. We have the talent and the expertise in this room, and so that was a demonstration of it. I'm excited. I completely appreciate that. Your teaching can be crushing, but seeing one little person catch an idea or working with colleagues that gives you that moment of innovation is what carries on for next year as well. So thank you. That's going to carry me on for next year. So I greatly appreciate that as well.
Just piggybacking off of that, being new to the district and coming from New York City, I agree that the depth of case study thinking is not something that I had seen often there. So I appreciate that about this district. I think it's awesome that you guys are doing it. So.
Well, stay.
Or that we are doing it.
You are doing it.
That's right, Shirley. The work that you all are doing.
Thank you all very much.
Thank you.
Thank you. No, exactly. Yeah. Are we discussing the smart school allocation of it?
Spoke to it, so
are we good?
Yeah.
We will. It's underway. And thank you, Brad, for taking care of that already. And so we're going to move on to policy.
Sorry, I didn't mean to skip it.
No, I'm sorry.
Policy may be quick or it may not be, depends on what takes place. There was a New York State law that allowed students who received 2 different credentials to participate in commencement. Historically, both Ithaca High School and LICS would only let students participate in commencement if they were about to complete all the New York State Regents requirements. Now you can get a CDOS or a CASS, is that what it's called, and participate. So what we did in doing so and trying to be in line with New York State mandate, and I think Liddy's on this as well, so please correct me if I'm wrong at any point in time, We decided to rework and renumber a couple of policies and keeping, so if a family member or a student went looking, that it actually would make sense. So for example, policy 4770 used to just be about graduation requirements. We have kept the number but renamed it graduation requirements and commencement exercises, in large part because our commencement exercise policy really only had one sentence that was noteworthy, and that sentence was commencement exercises will not be held on any religious holiday. Now, we had a debate of whether it's called the Festival of Eid or Eid? Eid.
It's Eid.
It's Eid, that's right. And with that being said, we know that we are free for the next little bit because that's probably one of the only major holidays that would possibly fall on commencement, but we did some good calendar checking. With that being said, we've changed 4770 simply to add that sentence that is the last sentence, which says district schools should not hold commencement exercise in a day which conflicts with religious observance. Beyond this policy is exactly the same as it was previously. For 4770. You all staying with me for a minute?
I'm with you.
So I move policy 4770 for a first reading.
Second.
It was a tie.
It's a tie.
But,
Tie goes to
so,
runner.
so thanks, Sean. But is this one of the policies that has to be passed before graduation?
Ideally, yes, but it's going to happen whether we adopt it or not, because we're going to be keeping with New York State law. And so we can adopt the last two policies as part of a first reading in full adoption if we have a supermajority of the board. We can decide that.
And we still have a misspelling of layman.
On the cross-reference.
On the
cross-references.
Yes. Fantastic. I'll get to that.
So yeah, so just asking whether this is just for first reading or are we doing super?
We certainly could.
We certainly could pass this evening. It is everything we already had passed in policy before, just merged together with two policies. That's it.
What's our procedure?
Our procedure is I should withdraw my motion for a first reading and reinstitute another motion for a second reading and adoption this evening.
I'd second that.
I think you should.
So
Did you capture all that, Jennifer?
if we get it done tonight, let's do it tonight.
I hope this doesn't become a trend.
This will not become a trend. Us policy wonks won't let that happen.
I am going to try every time if we can do this.
So Pat seconded that?
Yeah.
I second that, yes, revised motion.
Do we have to vote?
Motion to withdraw.
We had a motion to withdraw.
Right.
Then we're going to vote. We're going to vote on that. Since it's a motion, we have to
Yes,
vote.
true story.
Right.
All right.
Okay, vote.
So we're going to vote on the motion to withdraw, whatever the heck Sean said the first time. All right. All in favor? That is everyone.
I move policy 4770 for a second reading and adoption this evening.
Second.
There you go. No ties. Any other discussion regarding?
And this requires 6 votes?
6 votes to pass.
And we will be counting. We are 8, correct? Elder did have to take off, so we are 8, but we do need, super is, somebody do the
Why does
math.
it require 6?
We're dispensing with the first reading.
Got it.
I'm sure there's a high school student that can tell me what the majority is,
Right.
whatever it is for. Anyway, all in favor? No other discussion, correct? Are we good? Well, everybody voted for it, so I guess we are. So good. There you go, Sean.
Policy 4770-R for both IHS and LACS do not need to be voted on. They were not changed in any way, shape, or form. Though they are put on here for a remembering that we should connect with both principals to make sure that these are keeping up to date annually or yearly. We have not done that since 2016, I want to say. So we're not making any move on those. We're just going to bypass those just for reference. The main policies that we have are policy 4772 and policy 4772-R. This is the Career Development and Occupational Studies Commencement Credential, the CDOS, or the Skills and Achievement Commencement Credential, the SACC. New York State law says that we are to allow students who receive either one of these certificates to participate in commencement, and to do so, we also have to have a regulation by law that the superintendent has come up with about what that process looks like. And so what you're basically seeing in the first one, the policy, it says that we will allow this. The -R says, here's how we'll communicate with parents to make sure they're aware of their rights and responsibilities to participate in this process. That's what it is. And the language is taken.
Following that for this year?
And yes, we are going to be following that for this year. And this language is taken almost verbatim from the legislation that was passed in law. In fact, I don't think we changed anything. Maybe we may have changed. We've been removing his and hers and saying students.
Oh, right.
We've been using gender-neutral language. Beyond that, I don't think we changed anything in that.
The fifth graders said that.
The fifth graders, they
Right.
did. They reminded us clearly that we should be using gender-affirming language is how they phrased it.
Fifth grade.
Fifth grade. It was powerful. It was powerful. So we can move both of these if need be. They can always be altered and changed and do it for a second reading and adoption because it's going to happen in about 14 days anyway. So then I move both of these 4772 and 4772-R for a second reading and adoption this evening.
Second.
One more. So we're going to, they're both in the same vote.
Both the same
We're not
vote.
separating it.
No.
All right. And any other questions? So, Dr. Brown, this apparently is what they were talking about at the last policy session.
You were paying close attention.
Roll in your eyes.
Frankly, no idea what you're talking about. And Dr. Brown knows that it's been all downhill for me since fifth grade. I think that's what, I've heard that a few times. So, are we good on this? We're all set. But again, these are important. And well, all in favor before anybody falls asleep. So, Sean, is that it?
That's it for policy.
Okay, and I do see highlighted, thank you, Jennifer, for another item, just our July 2nd ICSD reorg meeting for the board, where we do a variety of tasks. But what's up?
More riveting than policy, I'll tell you that.
8 a.m. you say.
Is that, I think it's just to verify that, most everyone can be there that day. It does have to be done within a window by July 8th, 7th. So are we good? That's going to go on, all right. Anything else we needed to?
Do we need a motion for that, or we're just a motion to set the?
Yeah, but we do need.
There's a motion, okay.
Yeah.
There we go.
I make a motion that we hold our annual reorg meeting on July 2nd at 8 a.m.
Second.
Mike, Chris, you can vote for it, but if you don't show up, you'll be elected to something. So.
That's happened before.
All in favor? July 2nd at 8 a.m. it is. Somebody tell Alfred. What else? Any other discussion items? Dr. Brown, do you have anything yet? Any other business? It's been a good day in the ICSD. So during, before, after, and this evening. So anything else by anyone for the good of the group? Thank you, Ithaca High. You guys are great. Appreciate it. No, it's appreciate all that you do. Look forward to the folks behind you. There is not a dress code, but you never know.
We're going to miss you, reps.
Yeah.
It's not going to be the same next year, so you got big shoes to fill over here, good folks. All right.
All right. Without objection, we are adjourned.